Welcome back to the Peerless YouTube. I am Caitie North, and this is the next class in our Halloween series, the Vampire Lips. If you are not into all of the blood and gore and scariness, this is also a great tutorial for doing red lips. So if you're not into that, I think you will still enjoy it, so stay tuned. And if you try this tutorial at home, make sure to tag us because we would love to see your paintings. Let's get started. So jumping right in, we are going to want to sketch out our lips, and I do make this video go a little bit faster just because there's a lot of detail and there's not much explanation, just being the time spent doing the small details. So if you need to pause this at any time, feel free to do so, but we're just gonna get right to it. So I looked up on Pinterest and on Google just some lips that were open, and there's, you know, with however many lipstick ads there are out there, you have kind of like a limited amount of lips to choose from. So I'm just kind of tracing off the ones that I found, and then wherever those little canine teeth are on your natural teeth, you're just gonna make those points instead of having them straight across or less slightly pointed to give it that vampire look. So the one on the left, I'm going to do a little bit more of a natural tint to the lip, and then what makes it the shimmery and shiny and creepy factor is that it has the blood coming out from the inside of the mouth. So inside the mouth, the teeth, and then like the inner edges of the lips are going to be red from the blood, and then the lips on the right are going to be a true red lipstick with that little dripping of the blood coming out too, but you still have that real sharp white stark kind of contrast between the teeth too. So a little bit different styling, but general part of these first drawings, they're pretty similar and kind of that kind of you know, basic lip shape. All right, so the one on the left, I want to make it look a little bit more of a natural skin tone underneath. So I'm using the flesh tint underneath, and it's just slightly too orange and yellow. So as I am putting it down on the paper, I am using a little bit of the blood red, just very, very, very transparent amount, just to give it a tint of that kind of more of the orange into it and some of those deeper, richer colors. But when it's very transparent, they kind of just bleed together. So you do want to make sure it's wet while you're doing this. And then for the lips on the right, I am using the Autumn's Indigo, and I'm going for more of an ashy, like, you know, been dead for a while kind of lip. And then going back to our natural pink lips, I am just kind of choosing a different pink. That one might have been the Magenta, again, very, very soft. And I'm gonna start to build out some of those deeper shadows, but still in the pink family, coming from the inside inner lip. So this is how I would do more of like a naturally soft pink lip. For our vampire mouth on the right, this one is going to be highly concentrated pigment on red. So when I put down this first wash, I want you to notice how some of the areas are kind of an orangey to pink. That is because watercolors are transparent and that fully isn't packed full of color yet, so you get some of those lighter tones. And if you want something to be a true bright red, you're gonna have to do a couple washes or layers, especially just to get those to look like the intense reds that I'm going for. So this is kind of why I'm just trying to pack in a lot of that color. I will come back and add the second layer, and you'll be able to see how much more it pops. But that is, you know, the first wash. So back to our more natural lips. This one I'm going to be using more of a red and kind of mixing with a bit of an orange because I want it to be more of like a peachish color. And what I'm doing is kind of little tiny lines that almost look like, what does it look like veins or little lines, like, let's see, what else could be like lightning bolts almost, kind of how they're just coming out from each other. And when it's very transparent like that, you get the illusion of texture, and it's an easy kind of way to start building some of those softer textures on those really soft lips. And again, when you're closer to the teeth or the inside of the mouth, the inner lip, I'm doing darker. And as you can see, each layer that I'm doing, it's getting a little bit more richer and a little bit darker of the red. And I'm trying to keep the outer edges of these lips as natural and soft and pink as possible, and keeping it really mostly on those inner sides. And another thing to remember is when you're trying to get any kind of detailed line on watercolor, you're gonna have to let each layer dry before you come back and do another one. Otherwise, those layers will bleed together because you didn't give enough time between the lines to dry, and if they're too close, they're going to bleed into one line. So while that left one is drying, we're gonna go back over to the right one, and we're going to be doing a next layer. Before we getting too much texture, you can see how pigmented and how dark I want this rich red to be. So I'm doing a little bit of the texture, the same kind of way that I did on the light side, but now it's in the darker tones. And I'm still just trying to make sure I get enough of that pigment because I want it to be extremely vibrant. And Peerless by themselves is actually one of the most vibrant watercolors that I have played with. But again, even when these super rich dark tones, they do take a couple washes to get that true deep red color. Can see as I kind of coming back to this painting, I didn't wait for all of those lines to dry at the same time before I did more lines, and I lost all of those little textures that I saw for a minute, but the paper was just slightly wet underneath it. So now I'm going to have to go back and redo some of those lines to give those textures back too. So also why I sped up the video is because all of these little tiny textures, however many times I did them, it was probably like 3 to 5. You'll be watching me paint lines in these lips for like the entire time. So again, just sped it up for those reasons. Kind of working in my I have almost 4 or 5 different colors of the reds that I'm working with, and I'm trying to kind of get the deepest and richest ones last, just because I want it really to only stay on the inside, but it's getting there. And for the red lips, instead of blood on the mouth, I'm using the natural kind of tones and using the Autumn's Indigo for my shadows. I'm trying my hardest. I probably should have done the teeth before the red, because whenever I kind of touch any of those reds, like you can see right here too, it just bleeds down into the lips as soon as the water hits it, just because they are so pigmented, and I've already done a few layers like that. So that one, I'm like, well, I'm not going to get the red off of that completely, so I actually decided to make those lips have the blood on the teeth, which I make it like the extra like creep factor, which is probably why I love them so much. But originally I was kind of bummed because I was like, well, I was impatient and I should have done the teeth first. So that could be something that you could try too if you're watching this all the way through and picking up my mistakes or the way that I did things that you like or don't like. I probably would have started with the teeth if you're going to keep the teeth white, and then come back and done the rest of the thing, like the rest of the lips, so you don't get any of that red to bleed in, because it's literally as soon as you touch one little tiny spot on the red with my brush, it just bled right into it. So going back again with my darker, the deepest red, and getting some more of those detail and contrast on those lips. And then both of them I fill up with the Autumn's Indigo and a little bit of the red. I think the Autumn's Indigo is mostly on this one, and I do a red and black on the blood lips, or the natural pink lips. And yeah, so for each one I'm kind of doing some shadows kind of where that upper lip is and underneath the lip, just to give it a little bit of shadow that makes that pout. Especially where the blood drop is, I'm adding a shadow. And so for the more ashen skin tone, I'm using the black from Peerless and the Autumn's Indigo. And then for the shadows on the natural pink lips, I am doing either a purple or a mix between the flesh tone and purple, and kind of just doing those tones a little bit more that way, just to kind of give it more of natural tones and not the ashy. So now that my teeth are completely dry, I'm able to do my darkest tones on the inside of the mouth and to kind of shadow the teeth with the new fresh blood. And then again, I'm just going for it and doing all of the teeth blood on this one. I feel like it's total creep factor, and I love it. I love how creepy it turned out. And then I had originally done the vampire mouth with the blood drip on the first one, and one of the favorite things that I liked about it the most is that as it was drying, I took my watercolor brush and I kind of rehydrated all the way around the lips, and what happened was that red bleed, like the red lipstick kind of bled into the lip area a little bit, and I felt like it just made this kind of eerie creepy list. So here right now you can see I'm just hydrating the very outline of the lips, and it's just giving that little hint of a shadow above the lip line. of just creepiness. So if you're doing just red lips, I probably wouldn't do this now. I would probably just like let it have that sharp line like a really intense like lip liner would be. But I did want him to be just slightly more creepy. And so doing that, I literally just went around the edge with my water, no paint on it, and just rehydrated right outside the line of paint. And it gave it that kind of bleed out that made that a little extra creepy. And again, going back with my brightest red and making sure I have all of those little lines, or what did I call them? Veins, or lightning bolts coming out, all of those fine textures, making sure that those are all in there, adding a little bit more of blue highlights, or lowlights, I guess, or like shadows. And yeah, basically getting close to being done. The next step is to do the white highlights. So for the pink one, unfortunately, my camera wasn't actually rolling, which has happened a couple times now. It makes me so sad. But what you're going to want to do is, so all of those little lines and lightning bolts that you created, when you're doing the little lines that kind of highlight those areas, all you just want to make sure is that you have the brush small enough and like 5 times smaller than the brush you have been working with. And you're going to kind of outline some of those little lights and then do little dots, and then wherever your biggest contrasted area. So you can see now all of my highlights are done on the pink side of the lips. So unfortunately, I'm so sad, my video got deleted, but you can see how small and detailed those lines are. And really with this pink, like the red lips, I'm trying to highlight the blood drop more and then just give it a couple highlights throughout the lips. But the main part of the shine and the really brightness of the blood drop is that like one area that's like lit up by like whatever light source there is. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense. I can kind of zoom in on the next clip on just the pink lips to show you a little bit more in detail the white highlights that I do. And here you have our completed vampire lips for our Halloween series. I hope you enjoyed, and if you do this tutorial at home, tag us at Peerless Watercolors. And yeah, we would love to see your paintings. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends, and we will see you next time.